we've come up with fun obedience. So that's putting the fun back into obedience. And I do it through lots of games, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't be around Absolute Dogs. And tricks. I love the tricks. I love doing lots of tricks. And then I sneak the obedience test in. So the dogs are always on side and having a lovely time and enjoying what they're doing.
Welcome to the Absolute Dogs Sexier and Squirrel podcast. I'm Lauren Langman. I'm one of the world's leading dog trainers, and it's my mission to help owners become their dog's top priority. In each episode, you'll discover how to gain trust and communicate with your dog like never before, creating unbreakable bonds that make you the most exciting part of their world. Hello and welcome to the Sexier and Squirrel podcast, the podcast that gives you real life dog training and sometimes human results too. Today, I'm joined by the wonderful Linda Hughes. She is a master of obedience and certainly someone I love spending time with. Linda, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm very well. Very, very well. Thank you.
And I noticed that you're wearing my coat. Linda and I have an ongoing joke. I love Linda's clothing. She was literally so dressed, literally to impress with her obedience the other day. She came down and did some training with all of us and mastered everything glam and the coat. So I even bought one myself. Now, Linda, we're talking obedience today, but we're not just talking obedience, we're talking fun obedience, because you know what, one of your missions in obedience, and you're no sort of newbie to obedience, you've been doing it a little while now, and I'd love you to tell everyone how you got into it and how long you've been doing it. But really one of your missions is to make it fun, right?
Absolutely. Absolute dogs make it fun. Because people can get very bogged down in the obedience test. And the teaching a dog the obedience test requires accuracy and repetition, which requires the dog to concentrate for quite long periods of time. And that, for the dog, and then eventually for the people, is very, very boring. And I know when we say obedience, we all go, oh, got to do as I'm told, that sort of stuff. And that's where obedience training can become quite pressured on the dog. And the dogs don't show any joy in their work. They sort of go through the motions. So I have tried really hard as I've grown in the sport, because I started out in the pressured camps. I've tried very hard as I've grown in the sport and got to know about dog training more and more to help my dog to enjoy what I do and have fun doing it. So I've tried to move away from the word obedience, you will be obedient, to something better. And we've come up with fun obedience. So that's putting the fun back into obedience. And I do it through lots of games, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't be around Absolute Dogs. And tricks. I love the tricks. I love doing lots of tricks. And then I sneak the obedience test in. So the dogs are always on side and having a lovely time and enjoying what they're doing.
And there. I love that. And I love that you make it fun for your girls and boy. And I love that you haven't only trained Border Collies, you've also trained poodles and lots of other breeds throughout your training career. And the interesting thing I think here is, Linda, that, like you said, so many dogs go through the motions. They go through the motions. Now, a lot of people get into obedience because they want a more obedient dog, but then they get hooked because actually there's a lot of fun stuff that you get to train that actually is quite exciting, and you start to really feel you're making progress and you're making a difference. But the thing I've seen so many times, time after time after time, is a dog who's been drilled. And this dog who's been drilled and is kind of doing it, not because they really want to, because they're being told to. And that for me is like one of the biggest areas to avoid in my dog training. If my dog goes in and their head's down, like I want to see bright eyes, bushy tails, like sparked up, like firing, ready to go. That's like my goal. And if I don't see that, I sort of miss that in a dog. How about you? And is that common? And is that something you've seen, or what experience do you have there?
One of the things, comparing it to your sport, that's really interesting to watch is your start line. Now, when dogs do what we call an A recall, which is where they have to wait and be called up to the heel work position, when I teach it, I want my dog to be, as you would say, I want to see the pulse. I want to see them going, let me move, let me move, let me move. So they're on the start line, or they're in their down position, but they're waiting. They're on the edge of breaking. They're on the edge of getting it wrong and breaking. And I want to see that, because that's a dog that's engaged and wanting to do. What I don't like to see, and I talk to some people who come to me for training about it, is the dog lying there like it's a sack of potatoes. Plonk. Ah. And then the handler calls it and it goes, oh, did I hear something? Oh, yes, I'll move. And then off it trots, but not with any attitude. I just would rather a dog broke the weight than plonk itself down and half go to sleep. So that's one example of how putting that energy into the dog. So the dog wants to do the behavior and it wants you to release it. It's waiting for its cue to do something. That's the excitement that I want to see in a dog. And I prefer to push the dog to the edge of breaking a weight than it plonking itself down and it being too solid. So you'll see lots of obedience people going round and round and round, drilling that weight, like you wait there, now you wait, no, wait, and all of this goes on. And I try and get all of that out of the equation.
I love listening to you. Those of you that are listening and you're thinking, Linda sounds very school mom, like you have got this school mistress sound, like you're very, very, she's laughing her head off now while she's like waving her hands, for those of you that can't see, because you're probably listening to your podcast in your bath or driving or somewhere where you're doing your net time. It doesn't take you any extra time, no extra time. But what I love, Linda, about you is that you're explaining this in a very school mom fashion, but actually when we're training, we have a lot of fun, because we were training only the other week. We had a lot of fun. Like it was definitely one of my highlights so far of the year. It was one of my highlights. I really enjoyed the time we got to spend together. I also really enjoyed, we filmed everything. So those of you listening and you're thinking, can I see this at any point? Yes, we filmed everything. So there is going to be a fun obedience badge, and there's definitely going to be lots coming to the Games Club and also to PDT Club, because we filmed loads. So those of you who are avid Games Clubbers, you definitely keep following, because it's coming if it hasn't already. And if you're not, then you know what, get over to Absolute Dogs. What are you waiting for? And join. But Linda, we had a lot of fun, right? There was a lot of fun. What sort of fun do you put in? When, how, where, why?
Right. Everything I do to begin with a dog is about games, and it's about the relationship. So I don't care at that point about the test. What I'm doing is I'm helping the student or me to build a relationship with the dog that is one where the dog goes, oh, I love being around you. I want to do things. What would you like me to do? So I work on a lot of handler focus, which is a bit different to you in agility, where you're always looking for forward focus. We're only occasionally looking for forward focus. We're looking for the dog to be going, what's next? What would you like me to do? Would you like me to do this? So there's that real lovely relationship. And that comes through games. It comes through playing Thunder, Tornado, flicking food, catching, magic hand, middle, all of those games that are in Games Club all build the relationship with the handler. And that's where I start before I do anything that's about the test. So that's number one. Number two is I teach the dog to move. I'm very, very particular about how the dog moves. Now, you're very into your fitness and keeping your dogs balanced and et cetera, et cetera. I'm the same. My dogs have just come back from the physio today. They've been in the pool with the physio, being checked over and being sorted out for everything that's going on with them. I want the dog to be able to move in a balanced way, holding its own weight. Because when I put it on my leg for heel work, I don't want it leaning on me. I don't want it to look like if you took me out of the equation, the dog would fall over, which you do sometimes with heel work. So I will teach the dog how to move, and I'll teach the dog how to play, and I teach the dog how to offer me, be part of the team. So I want it to sort of offer me behaviours and be part of the learning process. And then it's beginning little things like little holds, little sits, all the behaviours like sit, stand and down. I teach 6-week-old puppies sit, stand and down. That goes in really, really early. Now, we don't use it till they're way up the classes. But once I put it in the brain, I mould the brain first and I say, this is how I want you to do sit, stand and down. and that goes in when they're 6 weeks old, and then I move them on from there. But I just want to have fun, and I find life quite funny. I mean, honestly, we have to just, sometimes I think, oh, I wish I'd got that on video, because that would have been hilarious if I'd seen myself doing that. And I had a class only last week, and they went home, and in their messenger group, they were all saying, we had such a laugh, it was so funny, blah, blah. We just have to make it fun for the people as well as the dogs.
At the end of the day, we're all in it together, right? And we're all here to enjoy our dogs, enjoy each other, a bit of community. Like, I love that. I love having that community element to what we do, and how it can build a community around the love of an animal and the love of dogs. That's what we're about. So give me a couple of your favorite fun things that you do in obedience, or fun things that you find yourself doing.
So one of the three, apart from our sit stands and downs, which, we drill into them, and that has to be on a very clean verbal cue. I do nose touches a lot. I do twists and spins a lot. I do leg weaves. I do middle. I do magic hand, all of those sorts of little. And so I can be doing follow under a hand, and then I'll ask for a twist or a spin. I can bring them into middle, which then sets them up for a run to a toy. We do lots of toy play where we're doing toy switches and tugs and all of that sort of thing. So it's quite quick. I don't do a lot of we do this, and then we do it again. Oh, and then we do it again. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to do it again. It's let's do this, right, now let's do something different. So I'm constantly changing it up and keeping the dog in the game and enjoying themselves and not getting bored and not getting pressure. That pressure is the thing that really spoils it, I think, for the dog, is when people get too serious, too repetitive, and then the dog's spirit goes down. And when their spirit goes down, they'll still do it, but it's not with the same attitude.
I think that's brilliant. And it's a brilliant observation as well. Pressure is an interesting one. And with pressure, I've had, obviously, like you, and we both work at championship level, so top level for the UK. I've had a dog, I have a dog who's won, I think she's probably won around 17, 18, 19 tickets. I actually haven't counted, and I probably should one day. And many, many reserves, because she's very little. So she's often just picked out of that one. But interestingly, she really thrives on pressure, and she loves pressure. But I've had to really learn to adjust that. And I'm grateful I've had her later in my career and not so early, because some of the dogs I had earlier hated pressure. And the more that I would get stressy, and you do, don't you, when you really want to do well, or you really want to show that you can do it, or you really want to prove it to yourself, or very weird. I mean, lots of ways the dog game, like, we want to go out there and do it. Like, there's a huge will to like prove that you can do it, or get out there. And I was watching a program last night, and to the point the lady was like really quite obnoxious because she so wanted to do it. And this was something else, but she was so like wanted to do it. It's a horse thing. She really wanted to do it. And when you watch all of that and you see all of that, you can really see how that could affect a dog. Like, that could really affect a dog. And you're going to get the odd dog, the sensies of this world, who are like, bring it on, who are going to quite enjoy it. And then you're going to get the ullas who are going to go, dear Lord, what the hell is that lady made of today? And I've got Blink and I've got Venture, for example. Venture's like, please don't pressure me. And Blink's like, bring it on, lady. So dogs are different. And have you experienced that in training fun obedience and obedience?
Absolutely. I mean, every dog I've owned has taught me something different. And, you might think, oh, I'm now an experienced obedience trainer, I can just do it and it'll all work. And it doesn't, because I'm dealing with a completely new sentient being, different strengths and weaknesses, different way of approaching life. And I have to adjust what I do in order to suit that dog. So I have to, as we say in Absolute Dogs, train the dog in front of me. I have to be constantly getting feedback from the dog to know what it is that I need to do to enable the dog to give its best. And while Sensi is what I call a bit of a headbanger, she is a bit like, yes, I'll go forever. She does not like repetition. So if I keep repeating things, she will think she's got it wrong, and then she'll throw in the towel. She'll go, oh, okay, well, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'll give up. So whereas Ulla, although she's much more sensitive, she will keep trying, and to the extent that she over tries and she offers too much. So they're the opposite ends of the spectrum as dogs, and I have to adjust how I train them so that it suits their personalities. So Sensi can't have a lot of food throwing games because she gets way up in the sky with her arousal. She's better off on a toy and keeping things fairly sort of steady. Whereas Ulla can run about like an idiot. She doesn't go into over arousal and will come back from a food chase or a flick or catching and straight into being able to engage in the work. So I vary how I play with each dog depending on what they need. And Ping, my boy, he's one of these linear learners. So he takes a little while to learn something, and you have to keep repeating it to him. And then he'll go, okay, I've got that. I will now deliver that on that training as you have taught me. Now, if you get impatient, which I did, because I actually am a little bit impatient at times, surprise, surprise, Lauren. So if I changed it up, he'd go, hang on a minute, you've changed it. I don't know what I'm doing now. And he'd get completely lost. And I had to learn to just keep going over this, repeat the same training. And he would then just deliver on his training in the ring like a sort of honest boy that he is. So 3 completely different dogs. So I tailor how I play with them and how I engage with them depending on each dog's personality. And so people want prescriptive training. They want you to just do this, and this, and there's your result. And that dog training is not like that.
People want more linear, Ping style, but you know what? Like you said, dog training so isn't that. And at the same time, I understand that people want a pathway through. Now, Linda, is Funbedience and is what I know you've recently filmed some with us, but is what you do for any dog? Can any dog partake in it pretty much?
Absolutely any dog. Any dog. I mean, I've trained Jack Russells. I've trained poodle crosses. I've got people I teach who've got various different breeds, spaniels, Munsterlanders, poodles, miniature poodles, toy poodles, standard poodles, all the shapes and sizes of poodle, schnauzers. I mean, I've had everything that I've trained, and lots of different breeds. And obviously, some breeds are a little bit more amenable to the sort of training that we're talking about. But mostly, I mean, German Shepherd's brilliant at it, absolutely brilliant. So you don't always see them at the top of the sport, but there is a Jack Russell in going to Crufts. So it is perfectly possible to train all of those breeds to the top level, but everybody can go along and enjoy an obedience show. Absolutely can go. There's a lovely sort of introductory class that they can go and have a go. There's always a fence round, so if the dog they're not sure it won't stay with them, it's safe. So everybody can have a go at obedience. And I want people to think obedience is fun, and then they can come and have a go and meet new people and enjoy their day out.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's so much fun, lovely energy, lovely people, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Now, let's do a couple of top tips for people who maybe want to start out at obedience. And I'm going to say, first off, get your rewards and get dogs who love food, get dogs who love toys, get dogs to love what their rewards are. Because for me, as much as I've not done competitive obedience, I definitely loved working in your class. And I know that there's a part of me that would love to do competitive obedience. Just watching, I was like, I want to do that. And you know what? The rewards make it easier, right? Like, have a dog who really is passionate about their toys. So that would be my first tip. Linda, what would be one of your first tips for getting involved in something like obedience?
Have a dog that will engage with you and look to see what you want to do. So play the sort of the basic games like Thunder, orientation game, all of those games where either with the toy or with food, so the dog is checking in with you, going, what are we doing next? And I actually teach what we call focusing engagement. I actually mark it and tell the dog that's what I want them to do. So that when I'm competing, I can say, I have a switch on word and I have a switch off word. So they know when they're working and they keep engaged, and then they know they're off duty. But to have the dog build that desire to be around you, people say to me, why is your dog just bouncing around you, looking at you? And I go, because I play with it. Because I play games, and therefore they're going, we want to play with you. We don't want to go and sniff in the corner.
Yeah, no, and it makes complete sense. Now, my next tip is actually, I'm going to ask you, I love when you said a minute ago, you said, I always teach the movement away from the behavior. How do you teach movement? Because I loved working Ulla. I was like, yeah, look at me do heel work. So easy when the dog knows how. Like, you really can just take the dog and have a go. And it just felt amazing. But how do you teach movement? What are some of your tips for that?
Okay, so the behavior I teach first for movement is a nose touch. And it has to be a nose touch at the side. It can be right side or left side. But can the dog have the hand, the palm parallel to the floor, and put their nose up and touch the hand? If you've got that, then you can start to raise it slightly, so the dog then follows the hand and moves underneath it. Then you can start to work on movement. And I hold my arms away from my body. So this is not doing any movement near my hips or near my legs. It's away from my body. Hold my arms away from my body. Dog follows underneath the hand. And then you'll start to see their movement. And I'm always looking for that trot. If we can get them into a trot and they're balanced, then that's the movement that I'll look for keeping on my leg. But I don't do movement on the legs for a long while with a young dog.
So get it away from the leg, get the trot, get the nose touch, get the duration, and away from the leg, and don't put it near the leg until you're happy with it.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Look at that. Simple.
The other end of it by doing that. This is where I want you on my leg when I'm stood still. So I do that standing still. So I show them where I want them when they're on my leg by doing it standing still, what we call statics. Mm-hmm. But the movement is all done away from the leg, and then I join the two together. And I mean, that's like half a dozen words, and it's not easy. Yeah.
It sounds so easy, doesn't it? Like, simple as that. You just join it together, just matches up. Watch Linda's badge, you'll get it. It's amazing, and I had so much fun working on it with you. It was a load of fun. And Linda, another tip for someone who might be looking to either start out or improve. Another tip from you for your fun obedience.
So, well, your tip about the rewards is the one of the most basic. So if people say quite often to me, oh, my dog won't play, then the number one is find the thing that they might play with. So the whole pile of different things, which one do they prefer? And is there something that they just slightly prefer? It doesn't have to be that it's going to work for training, but that's the place to start. So that's engaging the dog. First thing is engage them, so that I'm looking again to the dog's preference before I then build towards how I might want a toy to be used in my training. So find out what it is they like. Then I do the thing about I have it at home and I put it in a drawer, and it's not available, and then it comes out like this special toy. We've got this special thing, and the dog goes, oh, it's that special thing that Mum plays with me with. And we have a little game, however that game is according to the toy the dog prefers, and then it goes back in the drawer again. So it doesn't come out unless it's about an interaction with the owner. And we gradually build the value in the toy. So toy play, and there's a toy play badge, isn't there, that people can have a look at. Toy play, really, really important. And then also food, a desire for food. So again, ditch the bowl, use their food allowance. If you want to up the ante a little bit, you can add a little bit of value to their training treats, and they have their normal food for, just generally for other games in the day. I use quite high value treats, but I don't use a lot of them. But my dogs are raw fed, so they get some of like Michelle's bake-off type treats that I train with. So the dog's got to want the reward. That's number one. If they don't want the reward, then we've got to go back to basics and build a relationship from there. And then things like proximity, so little things like middle's a great game because it shows them that they can be around your legs, and when your legs are moving, it's not an issue. They don't have to be afraid of it because that's what's going to happen when you're doing heel work. So you get their confidence about being around your feet and around your legs. And that's particularly important with little dogs because you don't want them to be afraid they're going to get trodden on. And the bigger dogs get can be sensitive to the contact, the feel of your legs against them when you're doing heel work. So that all of that gives them confidence. So middle on the move, leg weaves, nose touches, food follows, food chases, paint the town red. You name it, I play it.
I love it. I love it. And most of all, Linda, I think that you have a lot of fun doing it, and it really, like, you can see you enjoy it. So it's not only the dogs, you look like you're enjoying it. And what would you say was one of the most common mistakes that people do and have in obedience?
They get disappointed when the dog doesn't do what they want it to do. And I think you saw me a lot of the time when I was with you, laughing when it went wrong, laughing when there was a mistake. You know, the dogs don't mean to make mistakes. That's information to us. For whatever reason, the dog didn't get what we were trying to communicate. So then it's sort of like, well, how do we change the way we communicate with them in order to get what we want? And there's lots of reasons why they make mistakes or why they don't learn what we want them to learn. But none of it should be about us getting disappointed in them.
Absolutely.
And that's where I really just laugh and move on. Give them a laugh and let's start again.
And it's not final and it's not fatal. Let's move on. So, Linda, it's been fantastic. We've been learning fun obedience. I know that so many people are going to want to jump in and learn more. Guys, it may be out, it may not be out quite yet, but it's the Fun Obedience Badge. If you want to learn a bit more, join Linda on her Fun Obedience journey, where she's not only going to work with some of our students, she's going to work with some people who've never done any of it before. She's also going to work with me. And that was a challenge, eh, Linda?
I felt very powerful doing that.
I'm grateful that you did, because you know what, I was having an absolute blast and it was chaos all at the same time, just because like hand here, hand there, what's my hand doing? And then my arm did sewing machine. You know what, you have to be on the Fun Obedience Badge to see a bit more. We'll also make sure that we get you some in Games Club, and that there'll be some in for sure Pro Dog Trainer Club, because there's a lot of mechanics and there's a lot about how you do it and how you move and what you're doing with your arm, your leg, your plumb line and anything else. There's a lot for people to learn. Thank you so much, Linda, for joining us. Will you come back again? I will be back. Yes. Guess who's back? Linda's back. That was this episode of the Sexier and Squirrel podcast. Join us for the next episode, and make sure that you share this podcast worldwide. Father, sister, mother, brother, the world needs to learn more about fun obedience. We'll see you guys real soon.